everybody. Last session of the day before you get drinks and hang out. Are you excited? Awesome. Should we make it into a drinking game and the number of times you hear AI today, that's how many drinks you're having? Perfect. This is, by far, my favorite panel. I've been doing these for the last 11 years, and I'm so excited. You guys saw the impressive announcements of the lineup we have today. But we're really going to talk about leading in the age of AI. So we can agree AI has been the biggest part of the conversation today. And it's the next biggest revolution we've seen. And based on studies and the data, we see that McKinsey reported that 92% of organizations are saying they're going to invest more in AI in the next 3 years. So leading in the age of AI, investing and trying and piloting will be extremely important. So we're here to just dig in and talk right about it. So besides just pilots, how do we empower ourselves and our workforce to do the right thing and to lean into it? So before we go into counting AI for drinks, let's actually get to know our speakers today. And everyone hates this question, but I love it, and you'll see why. Let's start with the first question of, what is one fun fact no one could find about you on LinkedIn? Let's start with you.
That I'm quite creative, actually, that I like design and, gardening and not all the techie stuff. And it actually is a good balance for that kind of more structured, literal things.
Love that.
Yeah.
Corinne?
All right, so I would say what people wouldn't know about me is that I went to art school. So similar creative art school. And what I learned at art school, I never took a business class in college, but what I learned was areas around collaboration, around innovation, and probably one of the biggest skills I learned was around critique, how to take feedback. And it's something I don't think the MBA schools teach as well as art schools.
Leah?
And mine is also creative. I played cello for 9 years. I stopped because I went to high school and all the things happened, and it's my one regret. So as an adult, I've tried to pick it back up and taken lessons, and favorite instrument probably by far.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Impressive panel, right? Besides the title, all creative, all amazing women. So let's dig right into it. We've heard a lot about pilots, AI pilots. We're hearing them fail. But today, we want to talk about what pilots have really worked and what do we see succeed. So Corinne, let's start with you. What have you seen within your organization really work?
If it's okay, I'm going to answer it through 2 parts.
Of course.
So the first part is, a lot of conversations on AI. Everybody's seen probably that report from MIT around AI is failing. The big note for everybody in the room is we are in the first trimester of AI. And I'm not sure if anybody gets my analogy there, but it's a pregnancy analogy. We are in the early stages of AI. So I think that's important for everybody to realize that everybody is at the same stage of scaling. And I think that's super important for us all to remember. However, the big focus around what we're hearing from every one of these AI pilots is you got the use cases going, things are moving along, but where you're getting stuck is how do you get this to enterprise scale? How do you get this past your security teams, your CISO teams? So the biggest areas that we're seeing at IBM around what's stopping those pilots going to scale is around trust, around security, around governance. So that's a big topic. I think it's really important. Anybody who's doing these AI pilots really starts to think about to really bring it to enterprise scale. To answer the question specifically, we all use AI, I'm sure, in little pockets to do summarization and to help us get better at communicating, in our emails. But I want to tell the story about how it's really impacted my life. And it actually happens in my day-to-day life at IBM. So we have deployed AI everywhere in our organization. And the one piece that has impacted my life every day is something that's called Ask HR. So we have one single agent that rules everything for IBM. You don't have to go to multiple agents. It's one agent. And the biggest impact that I've had is now I don't have to reach out to my HR rep to get basic questions and answers. 94% of all HR activities are actually handled through an agent. I mean, that is pretty incredible impact to my day-to-day life. And it all started because our CEO, and I think this is important around executive level sponsorship, our CEO said we wanted to be the most productive company in the world. And so over the last 2 years, we have really annualized savings of $3.4 billion using AI. And it's more than just our HR use case. We're seeing it in our supply chain and our customer service. But I think in my personal life every day, to be able to engage and not have to go into SuccessFactors or Workday and all of these many tools and to go into one agent to help me, that's unbelievable. We have 11 million interactions on this agent in a year, and 1.1 million of those tasks are handled by agents. So it's pretty incredible impact that I see in my daily life and all IBMers and IBM are seeing.
And I remember you said you were skeptical when we initially talked about it. You're like, I need a human. It's HR. What do you mean?
I was like, this can't really work. And it actually has really transformed my day-to-day because if you're looking at AI pilots, the way we look at it is you've got to focus on the customer and the employee experience. Think about how do we make it simpler for them? This is all about augmenting human capacity. Automate those workflows, take away that manual task, and that's what it's done for me. And so I think if you look at some of these principles, core principles, look at what's really driving success, that is going to help you think about how you scale it bigger and bigger.
All right, so we started AI replacing and helping with HR. Jessica, what's happening at Microsoft? What's working for you?
You know, so some of the things you say resonate. You know, like for us, my team, like we're always building the AI stuff, and I have this very lovely task of getting the end customer motivated to use it. So if I think to myself, oh, there's these bright, shiny object use cases where you do something in healthcare or life science, and you can look across all the scientific data and come to like a very, very astute, immediate assumption. But what I see drives adoption is essentially when you take something that the mass workforce doesn't like, kind of like your HR use case. I think of one for one of the big fours where we went to their tax group, and for any tax associate, you have to go through tomes and tomes of literature, really boring stuff. And we applied AI to essentially, anytime that they had to do a proposal or recommendation, run it over all the tax returns, all of the data. And there was a moment when we showed this to all of the early associates that I felt like you know, there was like a relief, like we don't have to do that. And we came back months later, and I talked to one of the teams, and they said like they were actually now advising customers instead of spending hours and hours and hours looking at that. So I think finding the use cases that eradicate a pain point and that a lot of people love, that's where you get, you know, the most adoption. And you got to do cool stuff too, but that's definitely what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that adoption is the primary play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much to it, right? We're replacing the repetitive tasks. Like if you think about the example in HR, it's finding the right information that's already documented somewhere. It's the same thing of the repeatable tasks in the tax community, right? You're talking about adding value as a human post the repetitive task. And that's what we're breaking here, right?
Yeah, and there's this fear too, right, that AI is going to take your job. And
Yes.
I'm in the scenario of having a team that's selling the things that would replace the team that built them. But there's a lot of places where AI can make jobs not suck, you know? And like when you zero into that at an org, you get immediate uptake. And I think it can transform jobs, especially earlier career folks, right? Like that had to do that dusty, like monotonous work. It kind of pushes them into a spot where they can now learn and inform and, you know, make associations. So 100%.
I do think the one thing we've learned too is that you can't really just take an existing workflow and just try to bolt AI on top of it. This really requires a rethinking of those workflows. So it is a new way to think around how you support the people in your business, right? Really honing in on that employee experience, I think really has been key for unlocking our initial value.
And I think the theme that keeps coming up that we talk about all the time, it's yes, there's so much fear around replacing humans with AI. And the thing that I keep hearing in every room, it's not that we're going to get replaced by AI. AI will replace people that don't know how to use AI. So being in the first trimester of AI, it is our time to really take the time to start experimenting with it. You know, starting to actually implement it in our everyday lives. Start small. I think that's the theme we're kind of seeing and hearing. So Leah, in your role, you're talking to incredible leaders all over the spectrum of industries in your Everyday Better show on LinkedIn. What are some interesting trends that you are hearing in this space that you'd love for us to know?
Yeah, so I had 2 recent conversations with people who are using AI to their advantage or are sharing with leaders how to use AI to their advantage. And one of them is with Esther Perel, who is, she studies relationships for a living. And so you can imagine for someone who's studying human connection, AI has a pretty interesting and precarious role to play in the future of human connection. One of the pieces of advice that she gave, and one of the things that she's thinking a lot about, is how, and this is probably going to sound so cliche and old, but how soft skills are now essential skills. I am definitely someone who has historically been an AI skeptic. As someone who writes and creates for a living, it's really tough to kind of figure out where I place AI in my workflow and what I allow AI to do versus not do. But one of the things it can never do is support you in your skills and actually dealing with other human beings, which you will always have to do. So I think it's really about where we place it and how we consider it in our day-to-day lives. So her biggest piece of advice is to think about the ways in which you are or are not skilled in what was considered soft skills, because hard skills are much easier to come by these days, particularly with a lot of these platforms and systems. And then the second was with Deepak Chopra. He's functional medicine. He does all the things. He's written like 97 books and studies human development, spiritual development, and the world. And he loves AI, which is kind of hilarious to me. I was like, how interesting. And one of the things that he's done that I really appreciate is he's decided where and when, again, that he will use it and where he won't. And one of the things he said to me is AI is incredible for knowledge, but it is not usable for wisdom. So your life experience, your work experience, your own experience as a human being cannot be replaced by AI, and I hope nobody does that. I hope no one actually takes advice from AI without passing it through your own filter. So I think that's a really valuable way to think about it, is where can I find knowledge that I couldn't find before, and aggregate it in a way that, for me, historically, I can't do in Google in the same way. And then how do I pass what I learn through my own filter, my own wisdom, my own mind, everything that we have that's innate in there.
I love that quote. I want to use it. AI is incredible for knowledge, but not great for wisdom. Mm-hmm. And I think you were giving me a perfect layup to the next question. Thank you.
No problem.
As we're talking about leveraging AI, the next real big concept that as leaders, I want to get your perspective of the human side of it. The biggest part is working on the soft skills and building the relationship to build those transformational projects together and adding that wisdom into your conversations internally and with your customers and with your partners. So we know that relationships are key for our career growth and advancement and taking on new projects. So let's take the human side of this conversation. What do you think about the human side of building relationships at work? Let's start with Corinne.
Well, there's a really fantastic book that came out in 1959, so it's been around forever, way before AI, and it's called The Magic of Big Thinking. How many people have heard of that book or read that book? Mm-hmm. David Schwartz. He talks a lot about big thinking and big ideas, basically. Go big or go home, the concept there. And in regards to big thinking, I have always felt that what is so important to building relationship is to bring big ideas. I think whether it's a use case, but go big or go home. Like in my career, I've always found a way to get my ideas heard. And so I do think it's not about small ideas, it's about the really big ideas. And, you know, if you're not taking risk and you're not afraid and you're not feeling that feeling in your body that, oh, I might get fired or I might, you know, they might say I'm dumb or whatever it is, then it's probably not a big enough idea. And so I do think that part of human connection is we're drawn to want to see individuals with energy and ideas. And I do think a common theme of my career about building relationships has been around really bringing those big ideas.
Can you give us an example? And I've heard a few because we had a podcast earlier this year. But
Which one should I go with?
the audacious one.
The which one?
The audacious one.
I don't remember. Which one was it, Olga?
I think the last promotion is the great example of.
Okay, yes. So, long story short, so I had my first child. I was, had a very tough pregnancy. This is several years ago, and I had somebody really tell me, you know what, Corinne, you're not ready for this role. And the first thing to always remember is when somebody gives you advice, you have to instantly decide whether or not you have trust with that person and they have your best interest. I immediately knew that I did not trust that feedback. And so I kind of did a one-around on this individual, and I went, and I kind of went around him, and I brought a big idea forward. And through that, I'm giving you the short version of it, through that, I was given a bigger job, a better focus, a better everything than what this individual was telling me I wasn't even ready for. And so, take that feedback. But again, I do believe a big part of this is, bringing those ideas forward. And no doesn't always, and I hate using that, but sometimes no is just another reason to keep going, right? And never give up. I gotta say that's the one thing about my career, my life is, I never give up. I don't. I stay with the long game. The long game is key. And believe in yourself, and I think also supporting that, and people will see that in you, and that supports and builds relationships.
So I think your point about trust is like huge. Like no one is going to sign any multi-million-dollar agreement. No one's going to put their job at risk unless they trust you. That does not go away. I look at all day long, what can I replace with AI? AI will never be selling. An AI agent will never talk to a CTO and say, sign here. So it's made me realize and call forth in myself and my team the trust building elements. How do you instantly make someone feel comfortable? What is that, And so I really do think more so than ever, to your point about soft skills, there is this renaissance of and we even call them soft, like they're weak, but no. The greatest leaders, the folks that I see transforming stuff in business, they are very good at communication, trust building. So I think we're coming into a time where our spidey senses, too, about who those people are, both when you're building a team, but also when you're looking for leaders and mentors, who when they speak, you're like, aha. Because if you have that experience with them, if it resonates, that is now a powerful currency in our today's world, because AI will not do that. One other thing, though, too, what you were raising about like talking to ChatGPT, I feel like I have like, a relationship with my ChatGPT. I'm like always talking.
You do.
Yes, yeah, I do.
We all do.
Like I talk to it more than I talk to my husband. But I do think there's a huge risk also, because you could be like, I think that I can rule the world, and it'll be like, that is a great idea, Jessica. So I think
it is a great idea.
It is. I think I can. Yeah. So I think there's this spectrum of finding and understanding how to build trust, focusing on that, but then also understanding that where you do have AI, that you as a leader or as a builder have to remind yourself like how to make assertions and evaluate trust, and not let, to your point, AI make decisions at that level, the wisdom level.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think like what you're hearing is we are literally wired for connection. Like we are wired for connection. So I mean, if I study a lot of this stuff, you know, the stats on loneliness are going up. We can all talk about all the crazy things happening in the world. And part of my hypothesis, and I don't even think it has to be a hypothesis, it's true, is we are not connected. So that is the risk that we run, I think, with AI. And so our responsibility is to figure out when and where it actually is necessary and where just stepping in and being a human being and being connected to other people is important. And that's why I think like with work, you know, it's up to us to ensure that work environments hold that and hold strong to some of these skills that help us actually do things together and collaborate and be normal human beings. And so I do think it's upon, you know, all of us to take some responsibility. And to your point about the first trimester, you know, it's like we're kind of that way with social media too now, right? So if we can think about this as like, how can I, you know, impact my own corner of the world, whatever that is, because we all have impact, that's how you're going to feel like you've created a relationship with AI that's managed by you and not managed by someone telling you how to use it.
I'm curious, based on your conversations, you talk to artists and authors and scientists and different speakers. What do you think has been kind of a striking advice when they talk about progressing in the careers or finding mentors? What have you seen that's really stood out?
Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of people, and so I can't think of one thing. But I will tell you like the 3 themes that have sort of come up, and I'm holding my book because I just had a baby and I have like pregnancy brain. So it is real. It happens for a year and you forget everything. So I would say the first thing that I feel like I've actually come to understand is that we don't ask enough questions around career progression of ourselves and of other people. I'm also an executive coach, so I work a lot with people around their own sense of like self-awareness. Where are you going in your career? What does purpose mean? All of that. So my first question that I think is really important when it comes to career progression is, what is career progression to you? You know, so I think a lot of us, again, are fed a lot of information. Here's what I'm supposed to be doing next. Here's what I should be shooting for. Here's what success is supposed to look like. And I can tell you, God, I've talked to people all across the spectrum. People who are the most successful are sometimes the most unhappy or questioning the most how they got here. So I think it's really important to hold your own and decide more around your narrative than having someone else predict it for you. So I think that's a big question, is what does career progression mean to me? And off of that is like kind of a sub-bullet is, what do I want? It is the most valuable question you will ever ask yourself. It's the most valuable question you can ever ask anyone else who's going, I'm lost, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I want?
And it might change.
Oh, God, yeah.
Right?
Yes, and so my third question, thank you, that was a good alley-oop, is what am I optimizing for right now? So I have a 7-month-old. I have spent most of my career, I'm 37 years old, I spent most of my career from 22 to now doing everything I could to climb every ladder, to be as successful as possible, to all of the things, to be everything. And that is not what I'm optimizing for now. You know, it's for parents and for, I think, especially moms, it's the biggest like BC to AD anybody will ever have is that big shift in having children. And so I think, what am I optimizing for now is a really important question to ask in your career, because it changes over time. Sometimes you're optimizing for location, sometimes you're optimizing for money, sometimes you're optimizing for, you know, no commute. Sometimes you're optimizing for great mentorship. Sometimes you're making a big change. So the last 2 jobs I've held, I have written the job descriptions myself because I sat down and asked myself what I wanted. And I decided that I was going to create what I wanted. So I feel fortunate to be able to do that, and I don't think it's impossible. I'd rather not be the exception. I'd like to be the rule, in the sense that I think, you know, we spend a lot of time not thinking about our own agency and how much power you really have in deciding what you want, and what changes in your brain when you decide what you want is your brain actually goes out looking for those opportunities. So if you allow yourself some sense of like, sure, I can suspend belief and suspend whatever being realistic means. I don't really believe in that, in being realistic, because I haven't gotten my last 2 jobs by being realistic at all. So I think career progression has those kind of 3 components. What is it to you? What do you want? And what are you optimizing for now?
There's so many nuggets in this panel. If you guys take anything away, I know it's been a long day. I'm summarizing, so this will be easier. Bold ideas, especially in the age of AI, are extremely important. If you're not scared, it's not bold enough. Making sure that you're building relationships and building on that human connection is extremely important because no one's going to sign millions of dollars without that, and that's what we're here to drive is revenue and growth and supporting each other. And I think let's end the I love always ending on something actionable, right? We talked about AI, we talked about approaching your career, understanding what you want at each stage and being very vocal about it. But let's leave our audience with a piece of advice. So for the audience who keeps hearing AI and still scared and don't know where to start, what is your one piece of advice where to start? Let's start with Jessica.
Make sure you have ChatGPT or some platform on your phone. Because if it's not mobile and you're not working with it, that whole prompting, that whole talking and dictation and understanding how you have to interact with AI, it's the foundation of everything bigger and more complex. So I would say immediately, take a problem you have that you don't know if AI can fix and speak to it on your phone and see what it comes out with. It'll in many ways lead you to something. It might not actually be the resolution, but it'll change your thinking about a topic. And you have to be using it on a daily basis, I think, to inform change and even to moderate the human connection, right? You have to understand what it's capable. So do that. Ask it a question you think it shouldn't be able to solve, and you'll be stunned.
I like that. I would say, it depends on where everybody's at in this room. I mean, obviously there's personal application to your own day-to-day job, but a lot of your enterprises, if you guys work in large, mid-sized companies, I am sure there are pockets right now of experimentation. And get involved in those. Raise your hand. Start thinking of your own job and start thinking of what tasks am I doing that are very manual today. Look at simplicity of your job, thinking about it through that way, and raise your hand, whether it's in your CIO office or in the business. Ideas are coming from everywhere, and so I think this goes back to my initial point earlier, which is this is an opportunity to raise your hand and bring a big idea. AI is where it's at right now. If you want to grow in your career, you want to bring those big ideas, it's in this space.
And I think the fact that it's so open to everyone, you do not have to be a developer, you do not have to have super technical knowledge, which was the biggest blocker, right? You were hiring, and those folks are extremely important because they validate whatever we're building, but I think it's the exposure to build that technology now without that background is so, so key. So removing the fear and just I love the advice of to start with your own role to see what you can optimize. And I'll give you guys an example. I lead partnerships, and a lot of our time, a lot of the manual tasks is account mapping. Account mapping and account activity, understanding what's happening within the customer so that we can work with the partner to figure out where else we can invest to grow that customer and support that customer on their business growth. And if you think about it, it's always been super manual. You're looking up the accounts, you're scoping the notes. And that was the first thing we said, how do we optimize for this so we can focus on the 5 top accounts to start working on? And the time we've cut is tremendous. So think about your jobs, think about where to start, and go after the big ideas. I love that. Leah, let's wrap up with you. Where would you recommend people start?
Yeah, I'd say your mindset's the most important thing. I was super reluctant. I had the ick. I felt like I was cheating, especially because I love to write, and I am a writer. But I'd start with your mindset. And I love what you said. I was going to share the exact same quote, which is, you will not be replaced by AI. You will be replaced by someone who can use it better than you. So if you think of it as a skill, then how can you build the skill and start small? So a friend of mine, when I was very reluctant to use it, said, just download the stupid app and talk to it like you talk to a friend and give it a low-risk task. So I use the audio portion of ChatGPT. I just open it up, and while I'm walking or I'm doing something with I don't do anything with my kid around. So when I'm walking or doing whatever by myself, I'll ask it a question. I explain to it like I'd tell a friend, because that means that I don't have to do all the like creation of prompts that I normally do in Google. It's like I'm just talking to somebody. And then I get a response, and I'm able to then decide how to parse through that response. I think one of the best things I do is I always say to ChatGPT, I do not want an answer. I want you to help me come to my own answer, because I still want to use my mind. So I think that's really important. And I'd say, like, give it silly, low-risk tasks and just see what you think. Like, write this email for me. What's my menu for next week at home? I cook all the time. Like, plan my vacation. What's my itinerary? I mean, stuff like that, just to get yourself evidence to understand that it can work for you. And then you'll figure out what the boundaries are, which I think is really important, because we each have our own.
Yeah.
Any additional ideas before we wrap up? Are we missing anything?
I would say, in this age, like I think of like all the focus like on neurodiversity and ADHD and thinking, and I feel like my brain jumps around a lot. What I've really appreciated about AI, and to your point of just talking to it and just saying, is your ability like to just unload a free stream of thought of all the things you're thinking of, and then ask it to frame back to you, okay, what was it that I just said? And then structure your thoughts. It adds a lot of capacity to your brain and processing. And if you have this other creativity side, I have come to some of the best conclusions and the thoughts that were mine, but quickly. So I would really say, like, use it to just free stream thought and ask it what it thinks of what you say. You might actually elevate your own, thinking capacity. That's something I would call out.
Perfect. Thank you for wrapping up our day. Thank you, everyone, for an incredible day one. Enjoy the evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.